Spurs stay up. Oh, Reed! Where on earth did he find that one from?
Gyökeres!
Forward through for Krupi. Chance here! Salah for Liverpool. And there finally is the goal. Arsenal have won this game. Gabriel's header.
In 2026, the champions are the Arsenal.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, EPL Index proudly brings to you the best prediction podcast in the world, A Tad Predictable. With your host, Tiriwa Chanakira.
For Liverpool. And there finally is the goal. Arsenal have won this game. Gabriel's header.
In 2026, the champions are the Arsenal.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Sorry for the slightly confusing intro there. A few slight technical hitches at this end. Oh, and we've got a visitor in the doorway. It's all happening tonight. Lola is by my left-hand side. That was somebody else. I don't know who it was in the frame. Oh, and he's back and he's waving. I think we better crack on with this live before too much goes wrong. So hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining. This is Scarlet here. No, Lola has not just jumped over from her previous live. Hello, Harley. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining from Anfield Index. Someone else is saying, Footicon, that Lola told us that she is the better baller. Well, I'm afraid, guys, I'm going to have to myth bust that. Look, what I'll say is that if I were to compare Lola to a Premier League footballer, I would say she reminds me of Lee Cattermole. Okay, I'll leave that there. You tell me what you think. Stephen D, nice to see you here. I'm doing well, of course. It was a great night for Arsenal on Friday, so I'm sure we'll discuss that. Sleepy James, nice to see you here. Hello. And we've got Anakin Skywalker saying, come on, you Gunners. Yes, up the Arsenal, always. Guys, Arsenal top of the league, and they won at a canter on Friday night. And to add to the brilliant news this weekend, Man United lost, which I know you discussed with Lola, and so did Tottenham. So where better to start, guys? Where better to start than there? And I am going to share my screen because I think we need to talk about this. So Tottenham went down 3-0 to Brentford. Let's laugh at Tottenham. Right. Early goal from Lewis Potter, sickener for Spurs. Followed up by, I was watching when Vitaly Janelt put in the rebound after a very tame Kinski stop, and Coyote added another one while I was on a podcast. Guys, it doesn't get any better than this. Tottenham and Man United losing in the same weekend. Let's look at the lineups. You can see some of Tottenham's new names in there. Van Hecke, Senesi, Andy Robertson, who, God, I was feeling sorry for him. You've gone from playing for Liverpool to playing for Tottenham and getting pumped at the G-Tech. That has to be tough. Then the 100 million man, Sandro Tonali, where was he? I did see him dropping deep and trying to get on the ball, to little avail, really. Richarlison, he was bullied. Archie Gray was captain. I mean, look, Tottenham have road to run in terms of the substitutions they might be able to make. They are still integrating new players, and we will talk about the signings they've made later in the show. But look, there's no way around it. That is a terrible, terrible opening result. And not only were they beaten, they were thrashed. Harley says Sangare dominated. What a signing. I heard all about him. I must say I didn't watch enough of the game to see him. You guys tell me. Sleepy James said, didn't Brentford miss a penalty? Also, yes, they did. Igor Thiago hit the base of the post. Spurs and Man United, says Rayo, 2 Cheeks of despair, yes, I think that's what we all agree. Footicon says only better if Chelsea lose. Alexander James says, I've been bantering Spurs and United fans, but I'm scared for tomorrow. Did I go too early? Well, Alexander James, I can only assume by this comment that you are a Liverpool fan. Perhaps you did go a little early. It's going to be a tough opening assignment for you. Thankfully, Newcastle have been somewhat ransacked over the summer. So it'll be interesting to see who you're facing, but certainly the crowd will be up for it. Guys, let's go into detail on Spurs and Man United. Man United, we've not yet discussed them. They went down 2-0 at Hull. They were mauled by the Tigers, as the Hull fans say. Let's just have a little look. Oh dear. Sad. Mateus Cunha. Sad Kobbie Mainoo. Oh God, guys, it hits like crack. And you know what? All jokes aside, like, I think we all have similar allegiances in here. Hi, Bonkers LFC. Thank you for joining. Olo8 says, why are you a Gooner? You know what, guys? We'll get to that for sure. But look, I think the thing that is particularly interesting and funny about Man United and Spurs this weekend is that both of them, in different ways, really troubled me this summer. And in fact, United a little less, but United fans always think they're going to win the league before the season starts, don't they? I'm sure you guys all know some annoying Man United fans. Give me a shout in the comments if you've been hearing from any of your friends who support Man United. And then Tottenham with their transfer business, obviously linked to Savinho and Marmoush. They made that Savinho deal for £100 million for 2 goals in, I believe it's 53 appearances. Guys, how many millions is that per goal? I think that's some basic maths we can do there. Maths isn't my strong suit, but God, that deal seems steep. And we all thought, okay, that deal seems steep potentially because they might be about to usher Omar Marmoush through the door. And then maybe they will offset some of that fee in the Marmoush deal. But still 100 million. And Omar Marmoush himself, like, I think he's a very good player. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Great player, but the hype around Omar Marmoush, who frankly has not quite convinced in the Premier League. In fact, I want to qualify what I say when I say great player. Good player. Made a little bit of a difference at City. He kind of was responsible in part for getting them top 4 in that terrible season, which I'm sure you'll all have been watching on that Pep documentary. Has anyone seen it, guys? It is appointment viewing. If you have not seen A Beautiful Obsession, the Pep Guardiola documentary, you must give it a try. Coming to some of your comments now, Harley says, both were outworked and outfought. Any team that is missing real bite this season is going to struggle. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? They've been giving it the big one this summer, and you would think that would translate to the players on the pitch. Like, I mean, if we come to Man United, like, what did they expect? That you're facing a newly promoted side at home in their opening fixture of the Premier League season. What on earth do you expect except a team that is going to show up and give it absolutely everything? Guys, I am so pleased to have you here. We've got a comment from Alexander James. Marmoush and Savinho are not worth 150 million. We will be there if it doesn't work out with them. That's interesting. Alexander James, do you mean Liverpool will be there? I've got to say, guys, to all of you, from an Arsenal perspective, and Liverpool too, Marmoush to me looks like someone who, if you couldn't get who you wanted, perhaps you might fall back on him. My big question about Marmoush, though, is why does City want to get rid of him? If he's that good, why is City getting rid of him? It just seems a little suspicious, doesn't it? Just going to fix my screen here, guys. And then on to Ray, who says, Greek players are super underrated. I think you're right. I was talking to my brother because we were at the game, and we'll come to this, actually. I was at the Emirates on Friday night. It was lovely. It was a Champions homecoming, exactly what you want in your kind of opening game of the season, regardless of the fact that we were champions. And just such good football from Arsenal. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys were watching, but there wasn't a set piece goal. 3 goals, none from a set piece. And I just think, you know, we talk about, I think it was Alexander James who mentioned players not being up to it. Christos Zolis, what a player, what a find. And my brother was saying to me, actually, do you think that if he was not a little bit less good looking than maybe some other players, and if he wasn't Greek, he would have gone for more money? And the more I watch him, the more I think, yeah, maybe he's right. You know, I'm jumping the gun here, guys, but I know I'm in, you know, company where I can do this. Look, Christos Zolis reminded me of Alexis Sanchez last night. Just last night, okay? I'm not saying he always will be. I'm not saying he'll be as good, but he reminded me of Alexis Sanchez. D-Select says, short-term pain for Spurs with all those signings. You might be right, D-Select. The thing is, like, there's going to be bad moments for every team in every season, but start as you mean to go on. I mean, honestly, like, to go down that badly, it's not like they lost narrowly. They were absolutely pumped at Brentford. Peter Marshall says, the Alexis Sanchez at Man United. No, Peter Marshall, I mean the Alexis Sanchez at Arsenal. There's something in his stature, the way he cuts inside. Alexander James says that Zolis reminded him of Trossard, reminds you of Trossard. I see it, but you know what I think about Zolis? I think, I was talking to my brother about this very topic. Trossard is a fantastic player and Arsenal fans love him, and I will always be grateful to him for what he brought to the club, particularly considering we could have got Mikhailo Mudryk. Trossard was a box of tricks. I think Christos Zolis is a little more, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but he's a little more orthodox. He cuts inside onto that right foot and he's got a stunning delivery. Zolis was very much like paint by numbers in the attack, if you catch my drift. He was very, very deliberate, very his final delivery was just always in the right place. That's what I can say about Christos Zolis. Leandro Trossard was slightly more unpredictable, possibly capable of doing more, doing different things to Christos Zolis. But I think when you kind of compare the two players, I feel like Trossard was more of a drifter, more of a roamer. Christos Zolis very much in that left channel, in that left inside channel. And I mean, his delivery for Saka's goal, I thought Rice had carried it too far. And I think, you know, I was thinking, oh, Rice should have shot. He feeds it to Zolis, who first time on his left foot, it must be said, finds a very good cross. Trossard scores big goals, says Neil Caldwell. Yeah, you're not wrong, Neil. I think Trossard proved himself to be, it's an overused word now, but a very, very clutch player for Arsenal. And I think ultimately it was that goal scoring in big moments that really, really made the difference. I mean, he scored that goal at West Ham, which was arguably the biggest goal in Arsenal's title-winning campaign. But look, we need to, before I come back to your lovely comments, keep them coming, keep commenting, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Thank you so much, guys, always. Let's have a little run down the Premier League scorecard, shall we, just to see where we stand. And I want you guys to tell me what you think as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's look at the results. Premier League results, here we go. Right. As we've discussed, we've got Arsenal 3-0 Coventry. Guys, Arsenal were cruising. I know this isn't maybe what you want to hear if you're fans of other teams, but like, I don't think they faced a shot at their goal until at least 40 minutes in, and that was a bicycle kick on the edge of the box. They looked in the mood and they looked confident. There were so many times last season where Arsenal just looked scared. I can tell you, they were not scared last night. Ipswich Town. In fact, let's go in order. Hull City 2-0 Man United. We've already discussed it, but what a win for Hull, who I have to say, you know, we know everybody's written them off. We've seen the memes. We've seen the predicted Premier League tables with them at the bottom. They may yet go down, but they just looked big and strong. And at the risk of being reductive, you know, I do think that physicality is absolutely key to surviving in the Premier League. And if they've, you know, if they've done decent recruitment, and they will cause problems to teams. You know, sometimes if you recognize where your strengths can be physically and you go for it, that's all you need to do, you know. Moving on to Ipswich 2-1 Sunderland. That's a great result for Ipswich. I think a lot of people have a slightly skewed perspective of Sunderland after last season. I think people really thought, that Sunderland were going to continue on their form, given how high they flew. But I think those of us who were watching carefully knew that their underlying numbers weren't amazing. And I would tip them for an outside chance of relegation this season. And given that they were beaten by Ipswich as well, Ipswich have made a lot of signings this summer. And again, it is the first game of the season. But what are we here for if not to make grand predictions about the future of the Premier League based on one match? Everton 2-0 Palace. That's an interesting one. I mean, again, I feel like we're looking at two teams in Palace and Forest, actually, who and Tottenham, people who are under the leadership of a new manager, Ipswich as well, and who, they have a point to prove. We don't know what they're going to look like. In Palace's case, the message that we get from that result is, well, they're nowhere. They've been stripped of one of their biggest assets in Oliver Glasner. It looks like Ismail Assar wants to leave. We'll talk about him going to Liverpool potentially, or Galatasaray, I believe he's been linked to. And look, you're not guaranteed a result at the Hill Dickinson. It's a hard place to go and play football. But going down like that, 2-0, I don't know what the game looked like, honestly, but I know now that Mateta's in revolt. Forest v Leeds, that's another really interesting one, because no one really wanted to go to the City Ground last year, despite Forest struggling for form at times. And Leeds, they struggled too at times last season. So for them to get an away win there to start the season, I think it's a massive result. And I'm pretty sure it was a late goal as well. If I click on this, it will show us. Yeah, Anton Stack, 88th minute. And I think he scored from outside the box as well. I think he's a bit of an outside of the box specialist. So then we come to the star of the show, the big event of the day, Brentford 3-0 Tottenham. And I've got to say, let's have a look at the match facts, actually, because look, I know that you guys have been talking about Tottenham turning this around. And look, they're going to get stronger at some point this season. Of course they will. De Zerbi is unfortunately a good coach, and I'm sure that he will get a tune out of a lot of the great players that they have in their squad. However, 24 shots to 9. Guys, that is not just a narrow win. That is a pummeling. That's a pummeling. And again, more possession, but not doing anything with it. Same old story. Let's have a look at the standings. Where are Tottenham in 19th place? Just to wrap up the results that we have now we've wrapped them. And we will now wait for, I think, what is going to be a very juicy fixture between City and Bournemouth. I'm really curious about that one, I have to say, because obviously there was a big part of me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Obviously, there was a big part of me, before the Community Shield. I really thought, you just think of City as Man City. But already that's changed my thinking. And I know Bournemouth have a new manager in Marco Rosa. So again, it's really hard to know what to expect from them. But what I find quite interesting, actually, is I was reading an article about how obviously you need to recruit in the transfer windows because you can't stand still as a club. But the biggest predictor of success is much more what the club did in the previous season, what that particular manager did in the previous season, and what that club did in the previous season, than anything that they bring in additionally. And I think when you look at the Bournemouth setup, you just think, in the same way you think about Brentford, that's a good, smart team. So I think that'll be a really interesting fixture because, look, it's not the opening fixture I want for Arsenal. No way. I know City are at home, but, I'm not sure all of the fans are entirely convinced by Maresca. I don't think that's going to be an easy game at all. Right, I'm going to come to some of your comments now. Here we go. Gags Tandon says, bet Scarlet is loving this Spurs result. Gags, you are absolutely right. I have had a good day today. 2 good results for me, and my team didn't even play. Man United and Spurs both losing It's deja vu. It's a new season, same old story. Sleepy James says, I was surprised only one of the games had both teams score. Saturday was definitely for home teams. Sunday away teams fight back. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think probably aside from Bournemouth, you would say that the favourites in that set of fixtures are the away team. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Liverpool at St James's Park. Ray says Bergvall was at fault for 2 goals. That's interesting because I know that Bergvall, like Forest have shown some interest in him this summer. He has it's been hinted that perhaps he might not have the role that he thought he was going to have. Guys, I don't know why Fernandes didn't start. I thought, forgive me, if you spent 80 million on someone that they would go straight into the team. So who knows? Alexander James says Brentford front 3 of Sharda, Thiago, Ouattara. They are big, strong, and quick. Yep, you're not wrong, Alexander James. That's true. Double A1 says, hello, fellow Gooner. Good weekend. Hello, fellow Gooner. It's always good to see a Gooner. JD says, hi, Scarlet and chat. My first time joining one of your streams over from AI. Thank you, JD. Welcome, 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 one and all, everybody in the comments. I am so grateful to you. I am so pleased to be here with you tonight. And I can't thank you enough for popping along on your weekend. So we've talked a little about the fixtures. We talked a little about Tottenham and Man United. But guys, surprise, surprise, I want to talk to you a little while about Arsenal. So I'm going to share my screen because I want to show you some fun stuff. This is Kai Havertz scoring his goal. I thought it was a really well taken goal, by the way. I don't know about you guys. I think before the goal went in, it's not as if Arsenal were in any danger, but I didn't feel like we were piling on the pressure. I don't think we dominated the ball before we scored particularly. And the chance itself, you can see from where Havertz is standing, he's quite close to the edge of the box. It's not an easy finish in the slightest. And he just slotted it so comfortably into that far corner. There he is looking very happy. Are we going to see another one? No, it's just him celebrating. There's Bukayo Saka celebrating his goal, so we might as well talk about that. Bukayo Saka, it was that Zoles cross into a very dangerous area. Admittedly, someone has just said in the comments the Coventry defence was woeful. Yes, Rayo, you're right. It was. I think that the keeper, Rushworth, was very much at fault for this goal. He kind of palmed it out into a very comfortable area for Saka. And I actually thought Saka's finished. I was kind of expecting Saka to smack it, but he didn't. He rolled it in. So even then, it was kind of a scruffy goal. But I don't care. We don't care. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. As much as I love to see Bukayo Saka happy. I think the salient point here, guys, about Arsenal was that the reason why Arsenal may well win this Premier League title is the same reason they won it last year. It's because their floor is significantly higher than everybody else's. It's because they don't mess things up as much as everybody else's. Alexander James says, now Arsenal have won the league. Now they've won the league, Arsenal are playing with real confidence. You're not wrong, Alexander James. Although I want to make the point, having been in the ground, and maybe this is me from a fan perspective, I felt nervous, just like you always do in a football game. But I didn't necessarily think at the outset, we're all over them. I think what I saw from Arsenal, though, was calm. Arsenal were calm in that chaos of an early game. The Coventry fans were bang up for it. They were well up for it. It was their return to the Premier League. Of course they were, And you're not going to, suddenly be all over the opposition when it's their first game back in the Premier League. But what I admired about Arsenal, and I think this is the word I would characterise their performance with, they had real poise. Rayo says Arsenal were well organised. It wasn't just organisation, it was an attitude. So they got their goal. It was a bit scruffy. I think it was Solis who put pressure on the right back. I can't remember who it was. And the ball shook close to Calafiori, who, guys, here and now on this stream, tell me if you disagree or agree in the comments. Calafiori is one of Arsenal's best attackers. And I'll tell you what, I really have a problem with a lot of these football fans who approach me and say, Calafiori is a centre-back playing at full-back. Yes, he can play at centre-back, but the way he took that ball, I'm sorry. Centre-backs just don't do that. Centre-backs do not do that. He is a very gifted attacking player and really unorthodox. So yes, Rayo, you're right. Calafiori is wonderful. So Calafiori wins the ball back, pulls it back to Havertz, who just caresses it into the corner. And again, I don't think that Kai Havertz has always been a player where people have thought of him as, a really good finisher. I think he at times lacks a little finesse. And I think at times, sometimes, he needs several chances to score the goal. Other than that, I think he's, a perfect player for Arsenal, and I really have no beef with him. I absolutely love him. But I think maybe the fact that it was him who scored that goal speaks to a lot of what was good about Arsenal. Raymondo says, yo guys, nice to have you back, Raymondo. Thank you for joining. Thank you everybody who's here in the comments. Nice to see you all. Nice to spend Saturday evening with you. Plenty of people here tonight. Guys, keep coming along to these EPL Index fan focuses. We're really excited to be growing this season. I'm so grateful to Lola for getting me involved with this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun the whole show, the whole season. We're going to have a great time. So on to the second Arsenal goal. We touched on it briefly. Christos Zolis, I appreciate the keeper could have done better, but I think the intent, the first time ball into what was, the dangerous space in behind the defence is, to me, what makes Zolis a weapon for Arsenal. Because it was just a quick and accurate decision, which again is quite, when you compare that to where Arsenal have been in the past in terms of their attacking options. Sorry guys, someone's phone is ringing somewhere in here. In fact, I think it's Lola's phone. But look, let's move on to the third goal, Martin Odegaard. Again, I think the fact that it was Havertz, Odegaard and Saka who scored the goals last night, guys, I think is also a really important point, because Odegaard, Saka and Havertz are the bedrock of this Arsenal team's success in the past years. And you know what, guys? Last night was the second time they've all played together since 2024. So I think there is a feeling of there's a lot of talk about Arsenal's attack, and we will come on to the links with Julian Alvarez. But if they can stay fit, that's as good as a lot of Premier League attacks. I don't think it's as good as Liverpool's, by the way. I think Alexander Isak is he's the best striker there has been, although admittedly he was quite injured last season. But I think the difference it could make to Arsenal to have those three players fit, when you put into perspective the fact that Arsenal won the league in spite of those players being absent, not because of them being there, I think that makes Arsenal a really scary proposition. Right, I'm going to come to some of your comments now. Alexander James says, is Havertz a better striker than Gyökeres because he seems to be first choice? Alexander James, unequivocally, yes. To put it simply, he absolutely is. Havertz, I think it's an interesting one because rival fans, I think Chelsea fans absolutely have no love for Havertz, considering he brought them the Champions League title. But I think Havertz's all-round game, what he does as a striker for everybody else, his movement, Havertz is sneakily quite fast, actually, surprisingly so. And his all-round game is really what makes him a proposition that I think is pretty dangerous for Premier League defences, and pretty helpful to Arsenal. I think the key difference between him and Gyökeres is, and you'll have observed this if you watched Arsenal at all last season, the ball goes up to Victor Gyökeres and it comes back. Nothing sticks to him. Whereas Havertz, he doesn't just do one thing. He occupies loads of positions. He drops into pockets. He can pick a pass. He can run with the ball. He can arrive late in the box. He can hold up play. Whereas I think Gyökeres, I'm sure actually Gyökeres is a better finisher, but what Gyökeres needs to be put into the position to score a goal is much more input than Kai Havertz. And that's why I think Arteta prefers Havertz. Right, coming to more of your comments now. Sleepy James says, I know you can only beat who's in front of you, but I'd be interested to see how Arsenal play against the Big Six. Will they continue to play football, or will they just try not to lose? I mean, I think that's an interesting one, Sleepy James, and I think probably it's likely to be the latter. Like, again, when you think about what has got Arsenal to this point, and they are now champions, is a level of conservatism and a level of defensive solidity that I think has been really important to their ability to win games. Like, I don't think that fact can be overlooked. I don't think it should be. And as an Arsenal fan, I don't want Arsenal to stop defending well. But you saw in the Community Shield, Arsenal were playing better football, and I also think it depends on who the personnel available is. If Odegaard plays in that Arsenal midfield, it makes a big difference. And I'll tell you what, if Mars Lewis-Skelly plays in that midfield, it makes a big difference. Guys, 150 of you here tonight across platforms. Thank you so much for joining. 151 now. That's more than were on my first stream. So I just want to thank you very, very much for your time and for coming to have some fun here. More of your comments. MJM McLean, we need to stop Arsenal this season. Another season of Gooner fans, I think, celebrating too much. Well, you know what? If Arsenal fans can't celebrate after last season, then when can they? I think the celebration police need to get back in their box a little bit. Rayo says, Solis reminds me of if Liverpool signed Minter. Yeah, he's a smart signing. The only thing about Minter that I do want to discuss with you guys later on is that he appears to be injured. Tell me more about that. Tell me how, if you're a Liverpool fan in these comments, tell me how you feel about signing a potentially injured player. I know it's a live issue because Junior Krupi is injured, and plenty of people are potentially interested in a deal for him, but seem not to be pursuing one. So curious what you make of that. Rayo says, really rate Abde from Betis. I'm really impressed with him. I've not seen him play, I must admit. Rayo also, Havertz is a mix between that 9 role and 10 role, which is better for Arsenal's system. Yeah, and I think also in terms of the football question, I can't remember who asked it, don't overlook the importance of Havertz in that. Kai Havertz is another thing, and a fit Kai Havertz as well. It's something that allows Arsenal to play football. And Gyökeres, love him as I do, and I do love him. I really admire his work ethic. He was the top scorer at Arsenal last season. He scored 21 goals. You can't, at a certain point, you can't argue with that. But do I think he has the quality as a footballer to play well in an Arsenal team that has ambitions of playing good football? No. To put it bluntly, I don't. AA1, you got a surprise manager this season, I reckon, Farker. Interesting. I mean, it was a great result for Leeds to kick off with. I've really got to say, I don't have a sense of their trajectory this season. I know they want to kick on from being in a survival scrap, and I think given the quality of the promotion teams, it's likely that they will. But manager of the season, I don't know. I mean, Brentford, like it's really hard to look past Keith Andrews again. And I got to say, looking at him, he's very good looking. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Alexander James says, Arsenal have 7 to 8 of the best centre-backs, so they play to their advantage, and Arteta does like a good centre-back, like Konsa. Yeah, and Konsa was unveiled before the game. It was a lovely moment for him. We were all monitoring the size and shade of his jeans. They were very large. He's a very tall man, Konsa. We don't know how effective set pieces are going to be this season. And it was interesting, actually. Corners look different already. I sit right by the corner flag in the clock end. So Arsenal were doing different things. They actually did almost score from a corner, but they almost scored from a corner routine rather than lumping it in and, we don't need to relitigate this, but you know what I mean. And then in the Konsa thing, yeah, I mean, Arsenal's strength is absolutely their defenders. And in signing Konsa, I think rival fans have a perception of Arsenal as, like they always want to sign a defender. I think that's true. Arteta loves a defender. But with the Konsa deal specifically, we are without William Saliba, who is, you might disagree with me. Okay, I'll put him up there with Virgil van Dijk. I think he is the best, if not the second best centre-back in the division, potentially the best in the world. And the loss of that, the loss that incurs to Arsenal's team, even if, and I think Christian Mosquera is at some stage going to be a very, very able centre-back, but he's 22. Like, it's so rare that centre-backs of that age play serious minutes. And then if you go rung below him, you have Marley Salmon, who is 17. And I think really talented. I don't know if any of you guys have watched him. Let me know if you have. But again, like, it actually makes sense to me to buy someone who's 28 from that perspective, because he's in his prime now. Hopefully you get 3 or 4 good years, definitely get 2 good years. And Arsenal needs someone to come in and be at the level of a William Saliba, or be as close to the level of William Saliba that someone can humanly be. And when you go back to the Jarell Quansah links, Quansah at the moment is not as good as Ezri Quansah. I think we can all agree on that. Jarell Quansah may well be better than Ezri Quansah in 3-4 years' time, but Arsenal can't afford to buy potential at the moment, particularly when you look at the flux around the league. Arsenal must buy what will serve them best now. And I actually think in turn that works kind of well for the other younger defenders they have waiting in the wings. More of your comments, Stephen D. I don't like buying injured player. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult one. It's one of those ones where you think, are you going to be able to get a better price because they're injured? And if that's the case, and you really believe in their quality and you understand the issue, then, you know, is it maybe a kind of longer term bet? But obviously we're all in the business of results. AA1 says, what was your first FIFA? That's a really good question, AA1. I think it was FIFA 08. Does that make me old or young? I don't know anymore. What was your first FIFA? Right. More comments. KHXLID, don't know your name. Salmon is amazing. Mosquera still improving, was good yesterday. You know what? I absolutely agree with you. And I think Mosquera was embroiled in a battle late in the game with Taiwo Awoniyi and came out, I think, very well. He had 1 or 2 moments where he was pinned, but one moment that was really satisfying to the crowd where he nipped in front of him and muscled him off the ball. And I've got to say, I was full of admiration for that, because I would not want to be wrestling with Taiwo Awoniyi. Rayo says Ben White was phenomenal. I agree with you. And I think that axis, again, we come back to Odegaard, Saka, Havertz. Right, White is the OG in that, you know, Arsenal attack that, you know, was the first glimpse of Arsenal as a potential title-winning entity in 22-23, Rayo, as you acknowledge in your comment. And I think when those players are all on the pitch at the same time, which they've so rarely been in recent seasons, that makes a huge difference to the amount Arsenal are able to attack. Guys, I'm going to look at one more comment and then we'll move on to transfers. Minter from Alexander James will be our Madueke type signing. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think Minter, like, whisper it quietly, might be a bit better than Madueke. I've got time for Noni, mainly because he loves Saka so much and because he seems like a good guy. And also because, you know, Madueke is a kind of coach's weakness, if you will, because I think he has so many attributes that make him someone that you would want to work with. He's really strong, he's really fast, he's really good at dribbling. And you just think, oh, if I could just get your final product in the right place, you would be great. And I think he's a little bit seductive in that way, because he just can't quite... I guess I'm dubious about whether Madueke will ever be able to take that step. But I think what's interesting when you put him next to a player like Jeremy Doku is Doku looked like that player for a long time for Man City. I think Doku looked like a player who could go past someone at will, but didn't necessarily have the ability to go and make that final pass. And I think with Madueke, like, given how much of a problem he poses to the opposition, the question I would ask is, how much better does he need to be before he is really valuable to Arsenal? I saw one more comment that I wanted to have a look at, and that is D-Select. Arsenal used to be known for technically good, but being physically weak and mentally fragile players. Arteta turned that around. Yep, I think you're right, D-Select. I think, you know, he has a real emphasis on toughness. And I was thinking about the way Man United went down to Hull today and the way Tottenham went down to Brentford. There is one thing this Arsenal team will always do. They will scrap if you want to scrap. And that's what makes them versatile champions. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk transfers. We talked a little about Minter, possibly to Liverpool. Guys, I don't know what you think about this. I've seen some links, Lautaro Martinez to Barcelona. Why is that interesting? Because Barcelona perhaps accepting that they can't sign Julian Alvarez. I think Lautaro Martinez is a fantastic player, and if a Premier League club was linked with him, I'd be like, fair play. I think he's a little older. How old is Lautaro Martinez? I'm just looking it up now. He is 29 again. So he's not. I mean, he's not a spring chicken. That feels crazy to say for a 29-year-old. But how many of his peak years are you going to get from him? I've got to say, Barcelona don't seem to care about that, given that they signed Lewandowski, and that's worked out pretty well for them. I think they were interested in Harry Kane. But yeah, to me, that smacks of, are they moving on from Julian Alvarez? In fact, I'm going to read this to you. Lautaro Martinez has emerged as a transfer target for Barcelona, says Florian Plettenberg. They continue to assess their attacking options as a deal for Atletico Madrid's Julian Alvarez appears increasingly difficult to do. Interestingly, Mundo Deportivo reports that Atletico are open to an exit for Alvarez, but only if he joins Arsenal. So I think that's interesting. Look, we all know Alvarez wants Barcelona, but is he, if Atletico just will not do a deal with him, with Barca, the question is, would he stay there? And I think increasingly that relationship looks really frayed. He didn't play. I wanted to show you guys this picture. I'm sure you may well have seen it, but it is Alvarez on his first day back in the media, in the kit shoot for Atletico Madrid. Looks pretty happy. And actually, if we flick through this, he looks a bit happier last year and a bit happier the year before. So I think, look, that is not the face of a man who really wants to be at that club. I think Arsenal and others have been gambling on things starting to shake loose in the transfer window, and I'd certainly be interested to see what happens there. But obviously it relies on Julian Alvarez wanting Arsenal. Another one that's caught my eye is City's interest in Adam Wharton. We shouldn't be surprised that a top team is interested in Adam Wharton. Obviously City are trying to do business in their midfield. We know that. I think the Fernandes links, have they gone quiet? They seem to be on the back burner for now. I'm just having a look if there's any more news. Enzo Fernandes to City. I think it seems as though, I mean, Alonso's made some comments to the effect of Enzo having a very good attitude. I wouldn't be surprised if he moves. I think that is very much still on the table. I think City in for Wharton is interesting. Wharton and Anderson, wow, that would be a really interesting midfield. And I've got to say, both are definitely good players. But I think if we think about the fees that would be involved for these players, the question is anybody for any fee going to be able to replace Rodri? And how much premium are you going to pay for English talent? Because you will. And Adam Wharton, my impression of him is very, very, very good passer of the ball, really high technical level. He reminds me a little of Jack Wilshere in a way, without perhaps so much emphasis on driving forward with the ball and dribbling, but that kind of silky left-footed player. I see that in Adam Wharton. I don't know what you guys think. What do you guys think? And then another one that my sister Lola mentioned in her stream was Ismaila Sarr to Liverpool. Now that's an interesting one. Liverpool clearly want to add to their attack. Just looking at that now, he was absent from the squad today. I know that he's agitating from a move to Galatasaray, so nothing, in the mainstream as yet about Liverpool. But I think that would be a really smart move. I've always been surprised that Ismaila Sarr hasn't gone to a bigger club sooner, because to me, he's always just looked so dangerous. Right, I'm going to come to some of your comments now. Rayo says Wharton and Anderson is a disgusting midfield. Care to elaborate, Rayo? I think they're good players, but if Declan Rice is much better, so is Bruno G, even an injured Bruno G. Sandro says Wenger was the ideal person for scouting talents if only he was backed by the owners like Mikel is backed right now. Wenger lacked brutality. He's way too soft. The complete opposite of Jose Mourinho. Yeah, I think you're kind of spot on there, Sandros. I think is it the ownership? Was it Wenger's attitude? I don't think Wenger was necessarily the type who really wanted. I think ideologically, in a way, he was opposed to big spending in the way that the Premier League has gone. I'm not sure I associate Arsene Wenger with that. And he did lack brutality. Well, did he? I mean, when you think about the Invincibles and the really, really successful Arsenal teams, they were not without brutality. Like, think about this. Think about Martin Keown on Van Nistelrooy. I'm going to try and get that up for you guys. Keown on Van Nistelrooy. Think about this moment. This is not, this is not a team that is too nice, So I think there's a little bit of like Arsenal changed, that's for sure. There we go. That's what I wanted to show you. Arsenal changed, definitely. And I think the latter Wenger team certainly lacked a bit of edge, but I don't think that his players were without competitive spirit. And I don't think that they lacked brutality at their best. I think Wenger, God, I mean, I could do a whole separate live stream about this, but it's not very interesting because we need to talk about transfers. Right, more of your comments. Hugo Ekatika says, hey, Scarlett O'Hara. Hello. You can call me that if you like. Neil Coldwell says Sarr is an excellent addition to Liverpool's squad. I think again and again we're seeing the effectiveness of proven Premier League quality. And I think Sarr would represent a really known quantity to Liverpool. I think he's the wrong side of the age curve. I think he's 28. So that would be my reservation there. Again, like, how many good years are you going to get from him? But the flip side of that is what we said about Arsenal, which is like, at a certain point, you just need someone who's good enough. And Sarr, is definitely good enough. Velilunga says, sorry if I'm butchering your name, Velilunga says, what is the solution for sides like Newcastle and Aston Villa who have money but can't seem to spend? I mean, without wanting to pardon the pun, but that is the $1 million question, isn't it? I don't know where I stand on all of this, because obviously Arsenal are the beneficiaries of the fact that, sorry guys, Lola's just appeared. I think she wants her phone.
Sorry guys, I need to get my stuff. I hope you're having a great stream.
Here she is.
Supporting Scarlett.
She's come to tell you about Barcola. Lola, have you got a Barcola update?
There's a delay, and there are different theories. We spoke about it on my stream, different theories about what the delay is. But yeah, apparently the fee is there. He's looked at accommodation in Liverpool. He was supposed to travel on Wednesday, so I don't know what the delay is. I still feel very confident that the deal is going to happen.
And guys, while Lola is here, that is a good moment to remind you that we will be live together on Monday evening, 8 p.m. UK time. Be there. It will be a lot of fun. Goal difference live. Thank you, Lola. Thank you for popping in. Nice to see you. Lots of comings and goings. Back to your comments. AA1 says, Arsenal was once the Barcelona of England. Now we're the Atletico Madrid of England. I want to see us going back to the Barcelona style. I think that's a little harsh, AA1, because you know what? I think Atletico Madrid are nasty. Sorry, I have first-hand experience. Arsenal played Atletico in a Champions League semi-final last summer. And it was just like the experience of the Metropolitano, the way that penalty got overturned on Eze, Simeone's behaviour, it was really unedifying. And I know people think that about Arsenal, but my feeling about Atletico Madrid is that they are content to potentially sweep up some minor honours on a year where Barcelona and Real Madrid are perhaps not at their absolute peak. But I don't think that they have any serious ambitions of winning the title. I know they've won it a few times, and thinking of the year that Suarez was able to win it there. But I don't think that, like, I almost feel with Atletico, like, if you're going to play like that, at least have a reason to. And to me, I don't feel like I don't feel like they're successful enough to warrant it. I think Arsenal are a better team. Alexander James says, Atletico Madrid are nasty. You're right. Yeah, they are. Off goes Lola.
Bye, everyone.
She's headed home. But look, this is an important moment to stress. We are different people, and I'm glad that, that is something that we can dispel, because I know that people often think we're the same person. Somebody asked me at the beginning of this stream why I support Arsenal. And given that we're getting into the last 10 minutes of the stream, I don't want to forget you. Whoever you were, if you're still in the comments, make yourself known. Why I support Arsenal is very simple, actually. We grew up about a 15-minute walk from the Emirates Stadium, about a 20-minute walk from Highbury. My dad took me to Highbury in the 2005-06 season. Arsenal were in their centenary kit. This was the game. Arsenal 5-0 Aston Villa 2006. I'll show you. I want to also get a picture of what it looked like. Here we go. This is what it looked like. This is Thierry Henry scoring a goal. If it will load for me, come on. Here we go. Here we go. Right. Here is my first game. So that was my first experience of football in a live environment. And what a kit, by the way, and what a player. So if that doesn't make you an Arsenal fan, you know, at a young age, there's maybe something a little wrong with you. And it wasn't just the win. I went with my dad, who, funnily enough, is not a football team at all. And I think, like, the proximity, I was encouraged a lot by my mum. I think we applied for season tickets at the Invincibles parade, and we got them in the new stadium. So I was lucky enough to go and watch them. And it was never really a choice, you know. I just loved Arsenal, and I always have. Raimondo, Arsenal is such a great club. That's one way to get your comment read out, Raimondo. Thank you. They are. And Rayo says, it's good to have a competitive side to sports, especially with me. I have family members who love United and Chelsea and Leeds, but it's great to just love football, win or lose. You know what? Agree. That we all love sport here. That's why we're here. That's why we're watching. That's why I'm on this live stream. That's why you guys are here, because we all love football. Alexander James says 2005 was a good year for Liverpool, good choice of year. Well, you know what? Actually, Alexander James, this season, the one we're looking at with Thierry Henry, was the year Arsenal got to the Champions League final, 2006. 2004-05 was the year Liverpool went to Istanbul, and yes, we know what happened there. Double A1 says, there's only one team, as far as I'm concerned, worthy of support, and that is Arsenal FC. Beautiful badge, kits, players, everything. Yeah, I mean, I could just end this stream there. Very true, Double A1. Liverpool chat says, big up, but right back at you. Guys, it's been so nice to have you here in the comments this evening. I can't thank you enough for your support. Sleepy James says, Henry is absolutely a joy to watch. Just quickly, while we have a few minutes of this left, I want to talk about some final transfer bits and bobs, just to get us squared away, because I'm going to have to go soon. Guys, here are your transfer headlines. Arsenal are potentially seeing some movement in the Julian Alvarez saga, because Julian Alvarez, his stance on Arsenal is softening, guys. I'm just trying to find the piece. Here we go. There's an advert popping up. Go away. Oh, it's not going to work to show you. But look, from what I'm hearing, Julian Alvarez wants Arsenal, or at least has opened the door to Arsenal. Here we go. He's changed his mind. And this is the first time I've seen this reported. Julian Alvarez changes Arsenal transfer stance after Mikel Arteta talks. And you know, good for him. If Mikel Arteta tells you he wants you, you would change your mind, wouldn't you? He's a persuasive guy. I think the issue for Arsenal with Alvarez has always been how much, you know, like after the Vinny Jr. thing, how much do they want? How much do they want something to happen with somebody who may not want them? How much resources do you want to put into that? On the flip side, it doesn't look like Arsenal are going to get anywhere with their pursuit of Kenan Yildiz. I know that he's somebody else who's been discussed. Their manager, the Juve manager, Luciano Spalletti, said today, from my point of view, it's easy. They can offer whatever they want, but I want to play him next season. And he's the perfect guy to have these discussions like a mature person. And as a result, he knows full well that he shouldn't rush into anything. His future is already important at Juventus. It's not important because there's a club that can spend
100 million for him. He's already at the club that's offering 100 million for him. We're all very calm and eager, both ourselves and the player, to showcase the full potential of a football phenomenon, and so are the fans. So look, it's not a complete slap down, but it kind of sounds like the mood music is Arsenal pushing on this Alvarez thing, and in the case of Yildiz, perhaps they're being met with a closed door. Whereas I think my impression is that Atletico would be open to doing business with Arsenal if they absolutely have to. And it looks like the Atletico relationship with the player is pretty much in tatters, given that he didn't play. There's been a lot of criticism. The fans are not happy with him. Another one I wanted to bring your attention to, actually, that has been on my mind is this deal. It is the Savinho Marmoush move. So I mean, maybe I as far as I'm aware, here we go. It's not been announced that Savinho has joined Man City. Perhaps they're waiting to make a double announcement. But Marmoush here, this is the key for me. Marmoush has not done so, but also likely to depart City. Okay, so maybe this will change tomorrow. Maybe there will be a headline that suddenly says, it's all wrapped up. It's entirely possible. But guys, wouldn't it be hilarious if Tottenham had just spent 100 million for Savinho and that was all they got? I mean, honestly, I think Marmoush is the good part of that deal. And you know what? I read something today that said that City wanted to assess the merits of their squad before letting him go. So they want to play a game, see if they need him. And I think that would be smart if you're City. I think it would be look, they're going to make loads of money regardless, but maybe they don't need the money. I mean, City are not a club that needs anything, really. The other player that I wanted to raise here, guys, is Eli Junior Krupi, because Liverpool are being linked with Yankuba Minter. But why is no one moving for Krupi? I think he is devastatingly good, guys, and I think he's got such a bright future ahead of him. So my question to you is, would you go for him? I know that you've discussed players that you would potentially be interested in buying, but Krupi is so talented. And okay, maybe he's carrying a knock, but I don't know, how long is Krupi's injury? Someone tell me. And Sarr, if Liverpool are interested in, Minter's injuries may be different. Raimondo says Krupi has a long-term injury, I think. But is this not a market opportunity? I mean, if you go and buy Krupi now, obviously you can't then buy somebody else who might be able to help you. Or maybe you could do something creative with loans. But it just seems like a moment where everybody else is ignoring him is the exact moment to go and get him, because he's that good. He'll be back valued at 100 million in a few months' time if he plays again. Super JP says, I think 3 months. Thank you. Alexander James says, Iraola made Krupi, Ryan, Semenyo, quality players. You're not wrong there. Another player who I think of when I think of someone Arsenal missed out on is Semenyo. I don't think he's nailed on to start at City. You've got Ryan Cherki there. You've got Doku all in that left space. And then on the right-hand side, I suppose you could play Foden. I'm trying to think who started in the Community Shield. Foden did, which is bizarre because I think Foden is rubbish. You guys let me know what you think. So the fact that Semenyo can play on both sides, to me, and it's so powerful and so difference-making in the box, I'm like, that seems like such an odd one to let go. It seems like such an odd one to allow to go by you if you're Arsenal. But guys, our time is almost up. It has been another fantastic hour with you all. Thank you so much to everyone who joined. Lola and I will be back on Monday from our holiday in the Basque Country. We are both going to go and try and visit the village, the team that Iraola and Arteta played for. Alexander James says, show the Premier League table for a laugh. All right, Alexander James, I will get the Premier League table up for you. Although it's not going to make pretty reading for Liverpool at the moment, I must say. Here is your final Premier League standings as I depart for the evening. So Brentford in first.
Now, why is that? They've got the same goal difference as us. What's that about? Arsenal should be top on spelling alone. Brentford are top of the league, followed by Arsenal in second place, followed by Hull City. Then we have Everton, Ipswich, Leeds, and the rest of the runners and riders for tomorrow: Bournemouth, Liverpool, Brighton, Newcastle, City, Villa, Chelsea, and Fulham. And the relegation zone, guys, this is the money shot, isn't it? Look, I'm going to stop sharing my screen to say thank you again to everybody. Last few comments to read out. Take care, Gooners. Take care, AA1. Arsenal back in second, normal service resumed. Not sure about whether you can make that joke anymore, CP James, after last season. Tottenham and United, lol, says Super JP. Raymondo says, big up, guys. Come on, you Gunners. Big up all of you. Thank you again for another lovely hour. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your evening, rest of your weekends. To all the Liverpool fans, good luck tomorrow. We will speak again on Monday. Thank you very, very much, guys. Good night.